Compass Mining makes Bitcoin mining accessible to everyone. Start mining in as little as 48 hours with our turnkey hardware, online, and mining directly to your Bitcoin wallet within 2 business days. Find out more at compassmining.io and get started now. Hey miners, welcome back to the channel McNallie Money, the new home of power mining analysis. A historic day in the markets yesterday. Bitcoin on an absolute tear over the past week. The Bitcoin mining stocks obviously following suit. They're taking a bit of a breath today. So Anthony Power and I decided to put out an episode talking about our sell strategy and exit timing going into this bull market. Now, this is a video we've had a lot of requests about. We'd love to get your feedback and your personal exit strategy in the comment section below. Before we get into it though, please take a second, smash the like button, you guys. Big help to myself and the channel. Anthony loves it. If you're not already subscribed, McNallie Money, feel free to join and let us know in the comment section as well where you stand in our current Miner Madness rankings. Now, with that being said, let's get into today's video. Okie dokie, guys. Tuesday morning, a little bit of a breather in the market for Bitcoin and the Bitcoin miners this morning, but that's okay, Anthony, because this is a highly anticipated video. When are we selling? What is our exit strategy? And how do we think about timing this market? Now, this is a video that we actually put out about 6 months ago when we first got together on the channel, talking about where we foresee this market going and kind of our longer term plans. Fast forward about 6 months, now we're really in the mix of this bull cycle. We wanted to refresh everyone on our thinking here. So Anthony, how are you doing this morning after that historic Monday on the markets?
Yeah, still surviving. A little bit of pullback today, but a great month. So I'm not too concerned about 1 day pullback. I mean, I think you can't expect the Bitcoin price to go up 5-6% every day, but it's certainly traveled some in the last month or so and reached 90,000 during the early hours this morning. But yeah, we've seen a little bit of pullback today. Mining stocks have pulled back as well, but other than that, I feel okay because this is what happens in Bitcoin land.
It certainly is, and that's really healthy. I've heard the adage, stocks take the stairs up and the elevator down, and that's exactly what they're doing, is step staring up, higher highs, higher lows here, Anthony. You mentioned the rally in Bitcoin overnight. Obviously, we were up all night watching our phones, along with probably most people watching this program. Bitcoin looked very strong last night. Miners were looking like they may open in the green. However, we have seen a bit of a pullback. So as you said, up near the $90,000 range, just surpassing. Now we've pulled back into the 86,600 range, which is almost funny to say a pull back to 86,000, considering where we were a week or so ago. Any concerns with the Bitcoin price, Anthony, or you think this is pretty healthy consolidation?
That's healthy consolidation, and we'll come on to the ETFs in a second. But no, this is not. I mean, what we're talking about, 3%. Is it 3%? Probably 3% down. It's not, 3-4%. It's not a big amount. And when you think about what percentage it's rallied, we're still higher than Friday. So I haven't got too much of an issue. And actually today showed you that it's trying to find a band now around this sort of 85, 90,000. It's been like yo-yoing a bit today. So there's too much good news stories out there. We're still coming out from the election. The ETFs are, just buying in magnificent amounts, sizable chunks of Bitcoin, far more than, they need to remember there's only 450 getting produced a day. They're buying that plus another 20 days on top of it, literally every day. And there's only 21 million. There's no more. So the ETFs are getting in there early. I'm keeping mine, you're keeping yours, and 70% of people apparently haven't moved theirs either since the last couple of years. So we're in a good spot. As I say, you're going to have, some ups and down days, but we've been very blessed this last month. I looked at the monthly position for Bitcoin and the mining stocks, and, just going back over the month, more than half the mining stocks are up 50% or more, and some of them are up close to 100%. In fact, there's a couple on or around 100%. I think Hut and Riot, Cypher are up significant amounts in the last sort of 4 or 5 weeks. And, we can align that to the competition because, the leaderboard's changing rapidly. I mean, yesterday I was looking comfortable in second place in the analyst board, and I think I've dropped down to fourth today. So it only takes a couple of stocks, one going one way, one going the other way, and that leaderboard's changing. So, and then, the numbers that are going onto the website and checking their leader position, it's really showing the traffic's coming through. So, I hope everyone's enjoying it. We're literally coming to the halfway stage, and we'll probably do a podcast either this week or early next week on that first half period there in a lot more detail, and let people know about how some of these stocks have done, what to expect for the second half, who are the running and riders that could break away, and as we get close to that 31st of December, how much impact is the Bitcoin price going to have on the competition? Because we said pick 3 stocks, but when I looked this morning, we had a tie for first place. And we know what a tie means. With tie means you go for the tiebreaker Bitcoin price. And I looked at them and they were 90 and 95,000 respectively. So we're at 90,000 this morning. So does that mean, does that potentially mean 95 or above could be the winner? But as I say, it's changing. I was quoting Dan yesterday, who'd been in the lead most of the last 5 weeks. He slipped down to third place and he had a healthy lead. So, in minutes, this leaderboard can change, but great that everyone's having a bit of good fun with it. Got some great prizes, and we'll talk about those prizes in more detail next week. We'll do a specific podcast relating to the actual competition. So look forward to tuning into that one.
Yeah, most definitely. It's funny. The website traffic is just absolutely off the charts right now as people are refreshing those buttons. Now, you talk about catalysts. Obviously, we're excited about the ETF, so we want to get into that. Then the main event, which is our sell strategy and exit timing. But 2 key catalysts before we get into that, Anthony. You mentioned so much positive news right now. We saw Michael Saylor come out yesterday and buy essentially Marathon's HODL in a single go, 27,000 Bitcoin, just an absolute power move. We had KNR or Control Technologies on last week, a CEO here in Canada who's adopting a Bitcoin standard. Now we got another article out today from Genius Group talking about adopting a Bitcoin Treasury Reserve strategy. So again, from governments, from private companies, from individuals like yourself and I was actually buying Bitcoin last night as well. We'll talk about that in a second. People are continuing to accumulate, continuing to be a positive story here.
Yeah, absolutely. We want the adoption to get there, and we can see that now happening. These companies putting Bitcoin on the balance sheet. A year ago, there was only MicroStrategy doing it, to be honest, to an extent, and some of the mining companies. But now we're seeing pension funds adopting, Bitcoin, tech companies, ordinary companies that feel that having this Bitcoin on the balance sheet is a great play. And, MicroStrategy, I wouldn't want to play poker with Michael Saylor. I mean, I'm just going to throw in a marathon into the pot there. That's an immense amount of Bitcoin. It's taken them 4 years to get to that position. It took him about 3 minutes to buy the whole lot. So,
and he didn't even use his own money, Anthony. That's the kicker here, is he's getting rich off other people's borrowed money.
He's created I'm trying to think I think the company, MicroStrategy itself, is a software company, had a valuation of about 3 billion before they started moving into Bitcoin. And I looked yesterday and it was 65 billion.
Yeah.
It's getting now to a serious size. You're already now looking at, they do charts on the biggest movements in the day in terms of market capitalization, and you're seeing MicroStrategy in the top 3 or 4 companies now, mixed in with the Teslas and the Googles and the Microsofts. And this is just the start. You alluded to yesterday on the podcast, he's got another 42 billion effectively to go and buy more Bitcoin over the next couple of years, which is surreal. A company that was worth 3 billion 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. Great for all those people that jumped on the MicroStrategy train. It doesn't look like it's stopping anytime soon. It gives food for thought, though, in terms of how the market's valuing having that amount of Bitcoin. And what would be interesting is to compare that to how the Bitcoin on the balance sheets of the miners are being valued as well. Are they being looked at in the same way, to the same level? Effectively, they're producing Bitcoin at a cheaper price than MicroStrategy are paying for it. But Michael Saylor also put out a tweet about the yield that Bitcoin had been achieved over this last 12 months, and it was in the region of about 46,000 Bitcoin, I think. I've got the number in front of me, but something around that level there. And, basically he's saying as with shareholders, I produced a yield of 46,000 Bitcoin, and, that didn't have to pay mining machines or staff to run a mining company. So, he's emphasizing his ability to, raise Bitcoin within the company using, all sorts of different types of debt and dilution effectively. So, hats off to him. Will that give the impetus for the mining companies? Will the market start looking at those and valuing them in the same light? That'd be worth doing some analysis. Maybe I do a look at that this month and put something out in an article. Maybe that could be a good subject matter to cover.
Yeah, most definitely. I have the tweet from Michael Saylor here. It's 49,936 Bitcoin in terms of their Bitcoin yield, working out to a percentage of 26.4%. A very interesting point you bring up. We've talked about that NAV or net asset value premium in MicroStrategy before. I do think, talking to other CEOs, Anthony, the part of that premium is Michael Saylor's access to capital or cheap capital, and just the clout he's established in this industry, almost like an Elon Musk, right? He's idolized by many companies and investors. So absolutely phenomenal what he's done. I've actually dabbled in MSTU, which is a 2 times leveraged bull MicroStrategy ticker as well. So absolutely, if you're looking for volatility, those are some names to look at. Now, I want to move into the mid-morning market update quickly here, Anthony. Not a lot to report. DMG struggling today. We have a little bit of news with them we'll come on to at the tail end of the presentation. Mostly red across the board today. Again, we're viewing this as healthy consolidation, maybe a good opportunity to top up any positions if you have some spare change in the account.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've had a great run, and a little bit of a pullback is healthy for the market. It'd be interesting to see that those people that maybe bought Bitcoin last few days, how they're feeling, because this might be the first time they bought it. They bought it on the rise, and now there's a little pullback. Do they stay in Bitcoin? Does it keep them satisfied? So that'd be an interesting dynamic. But majority of people still massively in profit with Bitcoin. We've been buying it for a number of years now, and it's just had a great move. Remember, at the start of the year, it was $42,500. So even at today's price of 86,000, it's still 100%. You think of putting your money in. How many years would you have to put the money in your bank to achieve that amount? I'm going to say probably an average of about 20 years to achieve that type of return. And Bitcoin has done that in 11 months. So, it's a great position. And, the analysts out there, Wall Street, all these top fund managers are now, all behind Bitcoin, and they're coming out with their targets, and their targets are starting with, a 2 or a 3 in terms of hundreds of thousands of dollars where this gets to. And even some of the people have gone out as far as, I think, to 2050 and suggested that Bitcoin could be at 3 million a coin by then. Well, that's great. I mean, I hope I live to 2050 and be able to spend some of that 3 million. But
I like how they didn't have the foresight to even understand Bitcoin 2 or 3 years ago, but now they have the foresight to predict to 2050 accurately. Hey, it's funny how these things work. Now, we talk about the price surge here. We're going to get on to our sell strategies in a second, but before we do, it's important to really paint the picture here. So you mentioned $42,000 Bitcoin to start the year. One of the big major catalysts here was the adoption of the ETFs, those coming into the market. Now, a quick update on the ETFs. This is really what we feel has propelled this market and this Bitcoin price, obviously in addition to the political developments, but the amount of money that's being thrown into here, we're almost at a loss for words here these days, Anthony. If we look at a 4-day view, $3.4 billion US into Bitcoin ETFs, only United States Bitcoin ETFs in the last 4 days. I don't even know what to say here, Anthony.
No, it's pretty amazing. I mean, we talked the other day about, how much Bitcoin's produced today, and at 450. I mean, it's amazing to see this amount of purchasing by the ETFs even now. I mean, they've been approved for 10 months already, 10 full months already, approved in January. We're in November now, and they're still buying billions of dollars a day. Well, if you take the price, even at this morning of Bitcoin at 90,000, and look at what a day's Bitcoin would be at 450 coins, that gets you at heading towards $40 million in terms of the daily Bitcoin production, and at 1.1 billion, that's 25 days of production in one day. I mean, we talked about this last week as it was hitting 30, 40 days production when the Bitcoin price was a bit lower. And it's still doing 20 or 25 days now at the Bitcoin price at today's level. So this will only keep the price going because there's nowhere near that level of demand going to be consistently out there for these ETFs. And as we get more and more people looking at the Bitcoin price, and we've started to see now Google search on Bitcoin is starting to rally like it did back in 2021. We haven't seen that this year. Even though the price has been gradually increasing, we've seen it in the last few days where it's now starting to uptick. And it's always interesting when Bitcoin likes to show. You always get a few texts from people like you might have mentioned Bitcoin to, and then all of a sudden you start getting in touch with you and saying, how's the Bitcoin price doing lately? As if they've never heard about it. And then that you're starting to be in a cycle then, because even people that you'd mentioned it 6 months ago and they just ignored you, and now they're sort of seeing it because even if you watch the financial news programs like Fox or CNBC or Bloomberg, crypto and especially Bitcoin has a real position in those news updates now. They talk about those as much as they talk about all the other big stocks out there. Bitcoin is regularly talked about, and there's a number of, big names in the space going on these programs. They've had Michael Saylor on there. They've had Pomp on there, who has a big media platform, and he goes on there and talks about the Bitcoin price, and they're getting these experts onto these news sites to effectively educate them and also educate people at home as well, which we're constantly trying to educate people in the space. I'll go to the gym. I might be chatting to the person next to me, and we'll just have a conversation. And what did you do? I said, I'm in the Bitcoin. Well, tell me more about that. And by the end of the conversation, you're sort of like halfway to get them to buy Bitcoin. So it's an interesting place to be in. But this amount of ETF purchasing is just going through the roof. There doesn't seem to be any reduction in that. It's just momentum now.
It is relentless. And you know me, Anthony, I don't like to talk people into Bitcoin. I just put our stickers everywhere. So if you're walking around Amsterdam, Nashville, Denton,
Dallas,
Corsicana, Dallas, feel free to look for the McNallie Money Power Mining stickers, a little bit of a Where's Waldo, so to speak. Now, on to the main event. We've talked about Bitcoin price. We've talked about the miners exploding yesterday. We've talked about the ETF inflows, the political updates. As a result of all of this stuff, the Bitcoin mining stocks have really taken off, and we find ourselves in a position where many of us have made a lot of money. We're in profitable positions. Now the question, Anthony, is how do you exit these positions? What sort of strategy do you use? And what is the timing surrounding this strategy? So this is really, I guess, the $1 million question. I often think people put a lot of effort into research, into due diligence, into limit orders, market orders, entering these positions. But it's just as important to think about and plan an exit strategy. So we thought it's high time to do that as the market starts to appreciate and get into this full bull market momentum. So before I get into my specific strategy here, Anthony, I've got a little spreadsheet. I've borrowed a page out of your book today that I posted in our last video and in our Patreon. So I want to walk through it, give you a bit of an update on what I'm thinking maybe get some criticism or critiques from you, and then open it up to the comment section here and see how people watching the video feel about this strategy. Before we do that though, in general, you've been around the block a few times. I know you're in the last cycle. You've seen some ups and downs. You've learned some hard lessons. In general, at a high level, how should people think about this bull market, their positions, and the overall success they may be seeing right now in their portfolio? Compass Mining is your trusted partner in Bitcoin mining. Whether you're investing in one machine or thousands, our customizable solutions are tailored to meet your needs. We are your experts in Bitcoin mining, offering a platform where individuals and businesses can purchase hardware, host machines, and access a range of ancillary Bitcoin mining services. We also specialize in large-scale site development and data center operations. Discover more at compassmining.io and see how we can power your success today.
So for those that weren't around during the last cycle in the end of 2020 through 2021, where we saw literally pandemonium in some of these stocks really going, significant market caps. In fact, a lot of the miners we talk about now, and you think of them as mining companies where they're probably 10, 15 times bigger than they were in 2021, are still nowhere near the market capitalizations of that period. Marathon reached 8 billion. Riot was close behind at 7 or 8 billion. Hut 8, when it was Hut 8 on its own, this is before the merger, was $2.5 billion in valuation. I know they've got over 2.2 billion now, but they've merged with USBTC. So effectively, you can say they've doubled as a company in size, but they're still lower than the original Hut valuation in 2021. And what we saw there was we did see, there were some great news stories. Elon Musk highlighted the fact that he'd bought some Bitcoin and the Bitcoin price rallied really quickly over a very short period of time, reached an all-time high. Then there was a pullback in the summer months, and then we saw a big rise in October, all the way up to 69,000. But when we got 69,000 and we were getting these updates from people like Plan B about the way Bitcoin was still going to progress through the cycle, and 100,000 was going to be achievable. I think a lot of people, including myself, thought that this was never ending, and didn't take the necessary precautions to take. I took some profits in earlier in the year because it was just ridiculous the amount of profits that were being made. I'd got into this space and it was just life-changing profits. So I did take some, but then, I bought back into some other miners and watched them rise. And then towards the end of 2021, saw the pullback. And before you could blink, those profits were sort of wiped away. And then you're in a position then as well, it'll recover. And all through 2022, these stocks declined. And we saw the Bitcoin price go from 69,000 at the end of 2021, all the way back down to 15,000 at the end of 2023. So in that year, it had dropped by, 75, 80% in value. And when it gets to 80%, drop, how many people are comfortable going back in the market? I've never seen as many messages saying how many people got into Core Scientific when it went into Chapter 11 because it was insolvent and managed to buy at 4 cents. That takes some guts when you've seen the Bitcoin price drop consistently to go in and buy stock at that price. I don't think there was, too many people doing it, but apparently they've all messaged me and told me they've done it. So I'll believe that when I see their trading screenshots, which we've all got. And I've kept some of my trading screenshots from the days when in that early 2021 where it was like Lamborghini time in terms of people spot. But going back to the end of 2021, the downside happened really quickly. People weren't prepared for it. People lost a lot of profits. So we're into 2024, and this year alone, I've made probably about 40, 50 sell trades this year alone, just taking profits in a number of these companies. I think my sell trades outweigh my purchase trades probably 10 to 1. So, I have conviction to buy stocks. I made some purchases when we came back from Dallas back in June. I also sold some stocks in June, July, and I've been gradually selling stocks, and I'm sharing the trades with the Patreon group. So by all means, have a look at the Patreon, all the trades when I do trade in there, and it's been a very, very productive year by doing that, by taking profits. When you feel comfortable that you've achieved a reasonably good return on what you've invested in there, it's helped me. I mean, I've bought many of the stocks that I actually analyze, and I've sold quite a number of them as well, and done really well. I think there's only one stock I sold at a loss this year. It was only a small. I had probably about 100 shares in like literally a penny miner stock there, and it wasn't, for me, it wasn't doing anything, so I just sold that. But that's the only stock I've sold at a loss this year. So going into this next 12 months, because they're talking about the bull cycle going to maybe the end of Q4 in 2025. I'm certainly, as we go through that period now, I'm going to be starting to take some profits. I mean, we see the Bitcoin price at 90,000 this morning. If it gets to 100,000 there, that'll be a start point for me to start trimming down some of these stocks, taking some profit, because you don't know. No one can honestly predict. I can't say what the Bitcoin price is going to be tomorrow. I can't say what the Bitcoin price is going to be in 2 hours' time. And so, nobody can with any certainty. Yes, the analysts will go out there and say, well, we've got these graphs that tell us what it's done over the last 4 years, and it's a good prediction of what it's going to do in the next, 10 minutes. But it's hard. And we've seen we've seen the biggest people fail. Plan B's 100,000. We haven't still got to 100,000. That's 4 years ago. I'm happy taking profits. If I've only made 60% in a stock and I've took a bit of profit, that's a great position. I've already said on the podcast, the banks are offering 4 or 5% a year. I'm not too concerned waiting to try and get 1,000% return. There are some stocks that will do that. I mean, Core Scientific, I got in there really early last year and continued to increase that position early this year once they come out of Chapter 11, because I could see the writing on the wall. And people who follow me on Twitter and follow me in the Patreon will know that I was buying that stock. And so I'm now in a position now where the actual profits there are really good. And it might be a case of trimming some of those down as well. IREN, I trimmed a bit of IREN early in the year as well when the stock price went all the way up to $15.50 in a very short space. And Bryce was with me, and he was saying on a daily basis I was taking profits. As the price went up another $1 a day, I was taking a bit more profit there, because it was going up really, really quickly without, at that time, full justification. So, as I say, I'm not setting, a target like in stone, but what I'm telling you now is that I will start taking profits, as early, even if it's before Christmas or certainly after Christmas, all the way through, just trim things down. I was always told, when you get into stocks that manage, it doesn't hurt to take a profit. And, I sold some IREN stocks at, I don't want to say $13.50. It went to $15.50. Great. People could have enjoyed it at $15.50, but I was enjoying, having bought the stock at $3, getting $13.50 back. That was a great return. Fantastic return. And the time to get that from A to B, from those two positions, was very short. And, that might happen again. I have the cash on the sidelines to do that. People who follow me on Patreon will know that quite a big percentage of my portfolio is in cash at the moment. I'm just waiting for the right opportunities, and that cash position will only increase as I start trimming down further.
No, those are all really good points, Anthony. And I remember on our travels this year talking about some of these sell strategies. So with that being said, a few of the really top points you made for me, this is a life-changing opportunity. We all know that this is a 4-year cycle. Many of us have been involved in these cycles before. The one thing we've seen in the past is these stocks can go down just as fast as they can go up. So I think your thoughts there about consistent strategic profit taking, Anthony, even if you don't maximize the trade, and like you say, you only get 80 or 90% of the upside, that's totally all right. And I would happily take 80% rather than risking a loss or potentially eroding all of those returns. So with that being said, I wanted to pull up on the screen my sell strategy. Now, this was put together again approximately 6-8 months ago, really when we first got together. I posted it in my Patreon as well. Same as you, I post all of my buys and sells. Unlike you, though, Anthony, I have not made a lot of sells this year. Maybe I could count on two hands the number of sells. I've been continuing to buy, as I mentioned, buying Bitcoin, buying miners as recently as last night. Now, where I'm kind of thinking in terms of my timing, my strategy, my exit here, you had mentioned that $100,000 US Bitcoin milestone is where you may start to take some profits. I have an intuition or hunch that a lot of people around the world have that same $100,000 target in mind. So my thinking here is to jump the trend a little bit, maybe start trimming a little bit earlier. So in the $95,000 US range, which interestingly enough is really only a stone's throw away from where we're at now. So I've put together a full table in Excel, basically forecasting where I think my profits, my portfolio value, my balance will be at each one of these increments. So the thinking, Anthony, is at 95,000, sell 20% of my initial investment in the miners. Now, I have started to potentially think about pulling this down to 15 or 10 because I have increased my overall Bitcoin price target for the period or the cycle just based on the election results, primarily the ETF inflows and this nation state buying that we're starting to see. So that's the first question for you is, do you think the 20% is the right number? And do you think the 95,000 starting point makes sense, or would you potentially put that a bit higher?
No, I think it's a sensible way of looking at it. I mean, I was saying, I could be selling before 100,000. I was using 100,000 as a sort of like the next landmark to get to. I've been, I've sold some stocks in recent periods, so it doesn't. The selling's already started this year for me, but I've still got a size. When I say sizable portfolio, it's minuscule to some of the ones we've witnessed this year. I mean, who can forget going down to Denton and looking at a portfolio with 9 digits in it? 9.
And think of it now.
Think of it now. And that portfolio was only in one stock, Core Scientific. And I think I'm trying to remember at the day that the price was like $6-7 on the day. And it increased during that day because that was the day that Core Scientific talked through the 200 megawatt deal with CoreWeave. And there was during that 2-hour live presentation that went out to shareholders all over the place, we were grateful to be sat in the audience with all these Wall Street experts. And the share price went up 20% during that actual presentation by Adam and the team, which was a great presentation, plus a question and answer session at the end of it. And this personal, retail investor had approached us and said, "Look, I follow you two on McNallie Money and Power Mining Analysis podcast," and we were grateful. Just and he said, you always get these people who say, "I've got like a big portfolio," and you don't want to say "show me," but before you could even mention "show me," he showed the portfolio. I'm like, I've never seen a figure that big in an account, and I'm a chartered accountant. It was like it was a big number.
We thought it was his cell phone number, didn't we, Anthony?
I thought it was. Yeah, I mean, I said, "I don't you start. Just show me what the balance is." That is the balance. So with your table there, Bryce, 95. It seems a sensible start. I'd be starting, around, that as well. I mean, 100,000. You've got a good point there. Is that people will probably start thinking that's a target for having sell positions in place. And so we might see a bigger pullback at that point in time. So selling at 95 on the way up to there, that's fine. But we know that, these are only short-term pullbacks. The way Bitcoin price has been going, who knows what's going to happen over the next year. And having sensible projections, I mean, that to me it's quite regimented, so it's quite planned. I'm more of a case of I will watch the position, because bear in mind all mining stocks will fall differently from Bitcoin price. So even looking at today, some mining stocks were actually in green territory this morning. So Soluna, Bitdeer, I think, was close to green. Bit Digital was doing well this morning, but then you have some other stocks like Cypher and Riot had a bigger pullback this morning. So there was about 8 to 9% between the miners. And we know that some miners are just over break even over the last 6 weeks, and some are at 100%. So I think, you have to take mining stocks, individually, and how you trim those. So it's good having, this is what you call having a plan in place. And if you stick to the plan, you can't go far wrong. I will be similar to that. I have a plan, but it's not as regimented as that it has to reach this target before I start selling. I will start to look at each individual mining stock, and where I think I've reached a good position where I can take some profit. I don't mind taking some profit. I'm not going to hopefully fall into the same trap as 2021 like many people did. And I've even seen, I've more than recovered from 2021, but there's a lot of people out there who are still sort of like remembering that period and are still sort of playing catch up in some of their stocks, some of these stocks out there. And, I can mention a couple of. Margo Blockchain was definitely one of the biggest stocks in 2021 to fall from the highest. It reached a price of £3 back in February of 2021, and it's hovering around about 8 pence a share now. So it's lost about 97% of its value. And I would imagine there's still, I was seeing on social media yesterday, there were still people who had some Argo in their portfolio, and there'll be them sort of losses. But I think that table's sensible for a plan. And it's always good to have a plan. But I'll be trimming, based on price performance from some of these mining companies.
Now, Anthony, you bring up some interesting points there about the regimented selling. Now, the reason I'm doing this is I know personally I have a lot of emotion. I trade on emotion. So the thinking here is to take emotion out of the equation. Now, you and I both have not expressed any interest in selling Bitcoin. So that's the next point I wanted to bring up here is these sell strategies are purely on the Bitcoin proxies or Bitcoin miners. So with that being said, first level of selling initiated in the $95,000 range. The thinking here would be to trim about 20% off each one of my positions equally, including options or stocks. You do bring up a very valid point, though, about the miner performance, especially now with the differences between the HPC and the pure play miners, that they do move maybe in different patterns or not so much in unison anymore. So that's an interesting angle that I may need to incorporate. The thinking from here would be $25,000 increments in Bitcoin gives me the opportunity to get into some of those higher price targets. Now, you and I both had talked about Bitcoin in the $100,000 to $150,000 range as this cycle high. You just mentioned within the next 6 to 12 months. It seems now that a lot of people very close to the industry, we talked to Adam Back, we've talked to a number of the CEOs, seem to have lifted that Bitcoin price. So in this scenario here, I could be selling my stack all the way into the $200,000-$300,000 Bitcoin range while still preserving some of that initial principal or investment. How do you feel about the Bitcoin price this cycle compared to this matrix and what we've heard from some of these leaders in the space?
I don't have a fixed view on where the price is going to end up, but I listen to all these, these experts that we've managed to speak to at some of the conferences we've been to. Adam was, I think they were raising his target, I think towards 400,000 for Bitcoin. So that's quite a healthy increase. But even if you said 150,000 in this bull cycle next year, and we talked about this quite a number of times. 150,000, is a position where conversations talk about round to Bitcoin mining. But it's, as I say, the profits at the moment in some of the mining stocks I've got are quite significant, and it's a case of I'm not going to try and chase, any 10x's or anything like that people are here on social media looking to achieve. I'm more than happy to take, a smaller profit and be profitable. I'm learning from previous experience, and it's helped me through 2023 and 2024 with the sales and purchases. As I said, I've been, really lucky to have just one mining company, and it was only a small one. But no, I think you've got a plan there, and as I say, everyone should have some sort of a plan. Don't just think that it's never ending, because believe you me, just look at the graphs over the last 4 or 5 years and see what happens post a bull cycle, and it comes down just as quickly, if not quicker than it goes up. And yes, it will come down to a level maybe that's higher than the previous cycle level. So the previous cycle level got down to 15,000, so maybe it gets down to 30 or 40,000. who knows? I don't predict on the Bitcoin price, but I do listen to some of these other analysts that do.
Most definitely. So I guess in summary, what I'm really hearing from you, Anthony, is have a plan in place, learn from your previous mistakes, don't get greedy, you guys, and take regular profits without trying to really maximize every percentage out of that trade. So whether you're taking a very structured approach like myself, maybe because you trade on emotion a little bit too much in the past, or you're taking a more strategic approach based on some of the individual minor moves, like yourself, Anthony, we can both agree that this is a great opportunity to make life-changing money. But like you say, it is a cyclical industry, and we've all seen those 4-year halving charts. And as they say, Anthony, the most dangerous words in investing this time is different. So with that being said, you guys, we'd love to hear your sell strategy in the comment section below, or your thoughts, feedback on our outlook here. In addition to that, before we let everyone go, Anthony, I did want to cover that DMG news quickly. We talked about them retreating in terms of trading today. Can you give us a quick walkthrough on that press release before we wrap up?
Yeah, this is all really accounting terminology. So basically, DMG have achieved SOC 2 compliance, which means, in basic terms, it meets very strict security standards, and that's set by the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. The certification shows that the company have been effective in protecting client data. So it goes back to having all this data and making sure that no one's got access to it, and they're confident that the company have sufficient security measures in place to manage this data.
And just quickly before we let you guys go, final piece of news from DMG today, coming out issuing just north of 28 million shares at a price of 53 cents. So that's obviously having an impact on share price today, Anthony, down about 20%, trading just shy of that 53% rate. So definitely one to keep an eye on there. Will be interesting to see how they use those funds moving forward. With that being said, you guys, a lot covered in today's video. Let us know how your portfolio is looking today, what you think about our sales strategies and exit timing, and of course, where you stack up in Miner Madness. Thanks so much for watching. Feel free to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you back here tomorrow for Ben interview, Bitfarms Q3, which has actually been pushed back to late afternoon and will be dropping around 4 p.m. Mountain Time tomorrow. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you then.